Welcome to the first episode of The Draft, your go to podcast for everything entrepreneurship. I'm Samyak and I'm joined by Arman, my fellow co founder at Possible, and Rishabh, the founder of Confetti Design Studio. Our guest today is Naman Tekriwal from Hong Kong, who is the co founder of Breer, a upcycling startup that is converting food waste into delicious beer.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me on the podcast today. It's a pleasure for speaking to Arman and Samyak again, and it's a pleasure to meet Rishabh for the first time. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Whenever I've spoken to you guys, it's been a very, very fun conversation where I get to learn a lot. And I hope today is not different.
Perfect. So a quick backstory, guys. I think I messaged Naman on LinkedIn, I think 2020, figuring out where should I go for university. He was extremely kind to recommend me to a few people, and also he's been a mentor through and through and a lovely guy to talk to. So I think I also messaged you when I was about to start Possible. I think right before, and we had a call, you gave me advice on market dynamics of alternative protein. So that was also extremely beneficial. Thank you for being there, Naman.
Yeah, and I remember on that very call, like we had a very hard time setting up a time for that call because I think we did like 12 or 13 reschedulings before we got to the call because I personally at that time was building two companies and I was into the 0 to 1 phase, so it was really, really packed and busy for me. And I was like, is this even a priority? Should I even give time to this guy? But I remember coming out of this conversation and then sharing it to my sister that it was after a long time that a guy was able to really like hold a good conversation and actually debate with logic rather than just in vain. So I remember you left an impression in that meeting.
अरे ऐसा कुछ नहीं है but I clearly remember us having a differing opinion on alt protein. I was like नहीं यार, I have to prove them wrong. I have to prove. I clearly remember that, which is interesting, and you've also been extremely helpful after that, coming for events, etc. But quick backstory, guys. Naman just graduated from HKUST, so congratulations on that. And the first question is, Samik and I are also student founders. How was your experience building a company as a student? And how did you maximize on that opportunity, or were there any cons?
See, I think my biggest advice to anyone who's in university now, or university is honestly just an age, but even in high school, because I started YTBC, which was an entrepreneurship competition for high school students. So, first of all, age is not different, but the point is that for anyone who's in high school, university, and not started their professional career, I think the best time to start a company or start something of your own is actually those years because you have nothing to lose. Like, what's the worst what will happen, right? You'll still graduate with your degree and you can still go out and get a job. But the point is that if you start something of your own, the learnings which you get from that 0 to 1 journey are so insightful in life because say right now at HKUST, my major was management and marketing and my minor was entrepreneurship, right? Like, did I learn about accounting? Probably not. Did I learn about supply chain? Probably not. But when I worked on Breer, I learned about accounting, I learned about supply chain, I learned about marketing, I learned about management, I learned about every possible subject which was there to teach at university in business school. And that's only because I was running a business. So, first of all, I think it's a big learning journey. And I don't know if you've heard, but this is a very Elon Musk thing where Elon Musk says that list down whatever you want to achieve in the next 10 years of your life. Like
Yep.
whatever you want to achieve, like start a company, like get married, whatever, like whatever you want to achieve. And now think about how you can do it in 1 year. So you will fail for sure, but you will be ahead of the person who does the same things in 10 years.
Yep.
Exactly.
So it's about how you can propel your time in the best way possible. And that's what I tried to do in university. When I came to Hong Kong, I saw the problem of food waste. And I could have waited for 3 years of university to end and then actually start something. But then I was like, if I can see the problem in front of me right now, and I know no one's acting on this in the world, like why should I not go for it? Like why should I not solve this problem if I can see the problem and I know it's an untapped problem, untapped market, right? So That's one. And I think second thing as to why people should start up in university or high school is because you have so many opportunities. You have so many different opportunities when you're part in like university or high school. Is you can connect with professors, you have more time with you. Like when you're a professional and you're doing a job and trying to do a side hustle, it's so much more difficult because you're 9 to 6 and then you have no time for building a company. But in university, missing a class is the best thing you can do, because you can actually go and make something better out in that specific time. So you have a lot more time, you have a lot more resources. Like HKUST wrote the first check for Breer, for which we used to actually register the company. We got referred to some of the biggest corporate clients which we have today through HKUST. And it's also street cred. Like you guys are at NUS, I was at HKUST. People recognize these universities in the place where you are, and you get a lot of credibility. Like I'll give you an example. Right now, Brewdog opened up in Hong Kong, and Brewed, it became a sensation. And we really wanted to partner with Brewdog in some way or the other. And the only reason Brewdog partnered with us was that the head of Brewdog in Hong Kong is an HKUST alumni.
Wow.
And he recognized that we as HKUST students and now alumni were trying to do something which is really different from any other beer in the world. And that's why he gave us a chance. So out of the 15 taps which Brewdog have at their own bar in Hong Kong, 14 are Brewdog taps, and Breer is the only 15th guest tap in a Brewdog bar.
Perfect.
And that
Congratulations.
only happens because you come from a good university.
So,
Exactly.
before we get deeper into the conversation, just for our audience, right? Of course, we know you in and out.
Hmm.
Bria is something we've looked up to. But we'd like you to give two introductions. One is like the introduction you'd give on LinkedIn or while talking to, a potential investor. And one is like the introduction you give us, like from the absolute beginning and so on and so forth. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So prior to that, I also remember, I think you started a company when you were in your teens, like early teens. So तब से शुरू करो. Like you can also start from the background, your business background,
Yeah.
etc., and then relay into how you entered entrepreneurship and how did, like, why beer? Or also
Yeah,
touch on that.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, what Samyak said, both of my introductions would have been basically the same. It's just a shorter and a longer format. And now Arman said to do the longer format, so it's probably going to be one introduction itself. But like deep down, like I come from a typical Indian business family. I'm a Marwadi, so like business runs in my veins. And I was born to do business, and it's probably doing a job. If you're a Marwadi, is probably considered to be a sin, right? So like, and I think the biggest aspect, and I've heard this on so many other podcasts as well, like people say that it's a case of nepotism in some way, that, like, why is a film star's son becoming also an actor, or daughter is also become an actress? Probably because their father or mother have resources, but it's also because day in, day out, when they were growing up, they saw that same thing. They saw glamour, they saw public relations, they saw acting, and they probably grew up with that. So similar to me, like I grew up with the idea of business. Like I was counting notes when I was 8 years old. Like properly, like I could count bundles of notes when I was 8 years old. I would accompany my father to his office and just see how he's managing people, how he's conducting sales. And I probably did not understand anything, but a lot of it is like spatial memory. Like I could visualize what's happening. Like I could remember some of the conversations, some of the relationship buildings, that he would give guarantees to customers that if anything's faulty, I'll return 100% of your money and things like that, right? So it's a lot to do with how I was raised. But I think the biggest aspect about how I was raised and then what led to me becoming an entrepreneur much early on in life was um, the people who I was surrounded with. So when I joined my high school, Amity International, Noida, I obviously until eighth grade was just another normal average student, right? And then in eighth grade, something really got me. Something really got to me that this cannot, like, I just cannot be another run of the mill average student. Like, I need to do something which any other student is not doing. And that's when I took this leap of participating in this very well touted competition amongst the Amity network called Youth Power, which is a social project competition. Like, you need to run a social project for a whole year and actually create impact through that social project. And I was in 8th grade that time, and my team members were in 11th grade. So one was the junior head girl of the school, one was a complete historian, like she would know everything about history, and one was someone who was like really into finance and like economics and all of these numbers. And I felt myself so fortunate, because that's actually the true start of the Naman you see today, because the company of those three individuals really shaped me of who I was as a person, like how to do hard work, how to communicate effectively, how to actually make best use of your resources. And the best example is that, so Shaurya, who was my best friend at that time when I did youth bar with him, his father became my mentor, because at a proper Indian household where both my parents did not receive formal college education or any education of that sort. Like, Shaurya's father, which is my mentor now, Rajiv uncle, really guided me and really told me about what I need to do with my life and how I need to do it in my life. And that's when I really understood the concepts of entrepreneurship, problem solving, problem understanding. And that's when I encountered with the problem of financial illiteracy in India, where I saw that, like, for me, I have mentors, I have my own father who are telling me about like stock markets, who are telling me about like capital finance and things like that. And why is no one in my age talking about it? Like, no one at all. Like, basically, you guys, all three of you are Indians, you probably understand that till date we're inferior to the concept of money. Like, we don't understand money properly, we don't understand compounding, we don't understand these terms, which is saving, compounding, investing. And till the longest time, the control of the monetary control of the house is held by the elder male in the house. Whoever's the elder male will probably be controlling the finances of everyone. Like, Rishabh is probably running his own company sitting in India, but his father would still be after him that, okay, how much are you earning? What are the taxes? Things like that. And his father would still be involved in some way or the other, even though he's running a very successful company, right? So I wanted to change that. Like, I wanted people of my age to really start talking about money, which is when I started my first company called High School Investors, where we just went from high school to high school, talking to high school students. And like, this was the line I used to say to them, that if you get 1,000 rupees in pocket money, right? And if you decide to spend 500 rupees of it and save 500 rupees of it, you realize how much money will you save until you're by the time you have to go to college. You'll probably have enough money to be able to afford your Delhi University college education. But they would never understand the value of saving 500 rupees into 12, which is a year, into 5, which is 5 years, which is so much money aggregated at once, right? So that's literally the education at Delhi University. Like, you could sponsor that entire education, right? And then if you invest in mutual funds and get a higher return, what better? So that's how I started High School Investors, went through that entire journey. And then, actually, fortunately, because we gathered so much data for so many different high school students, a bigger mutual fund house was actually launching a product for the teenage population, something like, like the partial stock ownership, like you could do something like that. And they wanted to build a product in that realm, so they kind of acquired us. Like, I wouldn't even say it was a formal acquisition. Like, they just gave us some money, and then they basically acquired the data of the company, because they wanted the database where they could start off with. So that was my first entrepreneurial journey of actually seeing a problem, building something from there, and then getting that company acquired, so to say. And honestly, doing that journey while I was a high school student was so beneficial, because it was a success, yes, but even if it was a failure, I just realized myself that I was so ahead of everyone else. Like, no one was even in the realm of what I was doing at that time. And then I got so interested in the idea of entrepreneurship, and just the process of 0 to 1, like just scaling things, like just building things, that I started participating in entrepreneurship competition. So I participated in the young entrepreneurs competition by the Indus entrepreneurs, and I led the first team from India to the second runners up position in Thai Global. Before that, no Indian team had ever been ranked in top three, and we were the first team which got ranked in top three. And we faced so many difficulties in that whole process. Like, we were supposed to travel to the US for the competition, we didn't, and we then pitched on Skype. At that time, I can't believe there was a time when we used Skype as well.
Nice.
So we
Nice.
pitched on Skype at that time, and we still managed to get second runners up position. And then from there, it was just a journey of like self development and personal growth. Like, at 16, I was interning with startups where internship was not even heard of at that time. Like, internship for under 18 was even a word, but I was interning with different startups and actually adding value. Not like because my father called a friend and I'm sitting in an office. I was actually adding value to like other 0 to 1 startups at the age of 16. Then I participated in Wharton investment competition, which was organized by my high school. Went to the US, and that competition really gave me understanding about the stock markets. And I did not participate in all of these competitions with the idea of winning. I participated in them with the idea of learning, because what all can I learn? How can I learn? And I just like kept getting more and more knowledge and information from all of this. And then when I came to, like, all of this happened, graduated out of high school, and then applied to HKUST, because I realized that at that time, and I think even today, harsh reality is that no Indian education university can really support the talent which entrepreneurs have, or the ecosystem which entrepreneurs need. Yes,
So I
Arman.
actually have a story here.
Hmm.
So guys, I spent a year of education at the University of Delhi, and I went to the bioincubator at DU. Like, DU is this 100 plus year, 200 year old university. I went to the incubator. I was like, I have this idea. Can you help me? They're like, first complete your undergraduate degree, then complete your masters, PhD karo, then come to us. And I was so pissed. So that was so I completely resonate with you, Naman, on that.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that front on HKUST?
No, yeah. So, I mean, this happened with me, and like I personally realized that myself, because I had an elder sister who was suffering from probably the same education system. So I had an advantage there. So I decided that I definitely want to go abroad, and I hadn't taken the SAT, so the options were limited to Hong Kong, Singapore, where you don't need an SAT to get an admission. Applied to Hong Kong, Singapore, both universities, got into UST, which arguably I think is Asia's best business school. So I definitely wanted to go to HKUST, especially because of the courses being offered and the faculty, like the faculty which we have at HKUST, a lot of adjunct professors, like Jack Ma at one point was teaching at HKUST as a visiting faculty as well. So there was a lot of attractive factors which really drove me to Hong Kong. But I was still very unsure, but I was only sure of one thing, that I really want to come here and meet like-minded people and just try as many things as possible. And I was very sure of another thing, is that I want to stay away from university societies and clubs, because I feel that the biggest waste of time for a university student in their entire university life. Like, serving food and organizing events and setting up chairs is not gonna make me talented and skilled. It's gonna make me good enough to, do an event probably, but that's not good enough for me to run a company.
All
So
right.
that was a
We
big
have
no.
we have a viral reel right here. Thank you for that, Naman. Um,
So just before you get into the journey of Breer, right, I fully resonate with your story as well because I come from a very, very Marwadi family. So I've seen business, same thing, bank jao, just make your mistakes, get shouted by the manager, come back, just go at least. I
Yeah.
just wanted to know what pushed you towards starting your own thing because the general norm is a lot of people make peace with the fact with the first part they fully resonate and they're like a natural extension is I'm built for business so I might as well join the family business.
Hmm.
What made you want to start up and what is it about that 0 to 1 that you really love, because I'm assuming the other part would have been more 1 to 100.
Yeah, exactly. And very relevant question. And I think that's a lot to do with my father and my mentorship community. So, like, my father has had a successful business in India for obviously 3 decades. My family, in fact, has had a successful business, and my father obviously plays a role within that success. And like, obviously, the natural progression for any Marwadi kid is to graduate out of university and then join the family business, right? But my father did not want that. Like, I really asked him that, like, I can get education and I can have the ability to actually scale it pan India and probably, go to that level of scale. But he's like, I know that you're not built out for this. You're built out for doing things like, the very, like, obviously, India is a country of entrepreneurs, because now we're diluting the definition of entrepreneurs a lot more than what it used to be like 5 years back. But like, when you look at the only difference between traditional business and a startup is that traditional businesses were always started with the mindset that we want to serve food on the table every day. So there was not the idea that you can burn money for 3, 4, 5, 10 years and then actually build a company out of it. Traditional businesses, like how our fathers, how our family started the businesses, was that we need to take out money of the company every month to be able to support ourselves. And there's no distinction between what's company money and what's our money. Like,
Correct.
everything's our money,
Yeah.
basically. But that's
So,
not how it works in modern day startups now.
so do you function Breer as a traditional business, or like are there some heuristics that you've taken from the traditional business and applied it to Breer? Can you elaborate on that?
For sure. I mean, yes, some parts of it is very traditional in how Breer runs. Like, we prefer to keep it very lean. Like, it's not like we don't have the money to hire, but we prefer to keep it very lean just for the fact that we know cost appropriation is a big thing. And I think cost cutting is something which I learned from my father a lot. Like, like, to be able to question the expense of every possible thing which is happening in the company, be it a $20 cab ride or a $200 brew. It's about, like, question that mentality of you being able to question the cost is very necessary. And I think that's something which I definitely get from my father and the traditional way of business. Because when I talk to startup founders nowadays, they're in this in this hamster run of raising money and then justifying to investors about why they raised so much money. And then they're going out on a hiring frenzy because they raised so much money, and now that, oh, the easiest way to spend money is give it to people and hire people, but people who are not adding enough value. Like, Twitter is the biggest example, right? 80% of the workforce was fired. It's running
Exactly.
better than what it was.
Yeah.
Exactly. We were
The eighty
actually
twenty
talk
rule.
exactly. Like if you remove 60-70% of the workforce from any big company right now, no impact would be faced.
Exactly. And I think that's
And
the same with startups. Like, there are people talk a lot about startup layoffs. The startup layoffs problem is created by the startups because they raise money, and to justify the money raised, they have to hire people, and then they hire people, and when the times are lean and they cannot raise money, they will have to lay off people.
so, according to you, what kind of startups should be raising money?
Only tech companies, like only companies which are investing in R&D, because R&D is something which you cannot solve in short term. Like, it's something which needs a lot of time and commitment. Like, for example, OpenAI. Like,
Yeah.
like, obviously we had to mention AI on this podcast, otherwise you won't get the SEO ranking in like long enough, right? So you have to mention. Did you know about OpenAI until ChatGPT came out?
Nope.
They
I did.
built in, yeah, you did probably, but like the general population didn't, because for 8 years they built in stealth, like absolute stealth. Like, no one knew what OpenAI was. Elon Musk was a co-founder in OpenAI, but
Yeah.
no one knew anything about that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the beauty, because they were not commercializing anything until they finished their R&D. And then they realized that, okay, now we're at a point where we have a serviceable product. They brought out that product to the market, but has their R&D stopped? No. If you look at their income statements, or if you look at their financial statements, or just the overall financials which are going on, 70% of their money is still invested in R&D. but they're not here to make money because they're going to be making money. Like, they're probably not even thinking in a 10-year timeline right now. They're thinking in a 30-year timeline of money.
So, just as an add-on question, Archkal, everyone is thinking that their company is a tech company, and usually they justify that ki, we are a tech company, that's why we are raising.
Food tech.
Mhm.
For our audience, can we just clarify what we mean by tech? Because
Mhm.
personally, we also had that phase where, you know, we have a consumer business at the moment, but everyone around is like investing in tech, everyone's just talking about tech. So,
Mhm.
what do we classify as tech now? Number one, and number two, how honest is it to be to be truthful to yourself? Ki nahi, I'm building a business that is consumer facing, and a lot of my day to day is going to be about selling. Like even with Breer, a lot of the day to day is now about selling said beer, right? So how do you help entrepreneurs not get like ahead of themselves and like think that hum bhi deep tech bana rahe hain?
I
Rosie.
think
Rosie.
I think very valid question, and I think people really need to understand this, that the difference between a tech company and a food company, or like a pet food company or a beer company, is that a technology company is investing not for the today but for the future. Like, I completely agree with the notion that in the future at least, there will only be two type of companies: tech and tech enabled. Like, even a food company like Beer, or even a pet food company like Possible, and obviously Rishabh is already in design, so he probably understand. He is doing a lot more tech than us guys, so he's probably involved in tech way more than we are. But we will need to be tech enabled. Now, what does
Yeah.
tech enabled means? Like, is chemistry technology? Like, beer recipes are made with chemistry, right? Like, if I don't understand what's the difference between fructose and sucrose, like, how will I make a beer recipe? I cannot. But is that technology enough? That's the question. And the point is recipe technology, like, is Coca-Cola a technology company? Like, people will have their own debates at this time, right? Because the Coca-Cola recipe is their secret sauce. And for OpenAI, what's their secret sauce? It's the algorithms, it's the learning models which they're building, right? So both companies have their secret sauce, and Coca-Cola recipe is a lot to do with chemistry, is a lot to do with understanding the ingredients which are going in, and here it's a lot to do with the codes which are going in, and the machine learning which is going in. So there are inputs and there are outputs. But in terms of what's the core positioning of a company, is I think what really differentiates between tech and tech enabled. Tech companies' product offering is also technology. A food company's back end can be technology powered, but at the front end, they're a consumer company selling a beer can or a pet food product, right? So,
Extremely.
yeah, go
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
Arman.
Extremely interesting because Samik and I have had these conversations a lot. The
Mhm.
question for you right now is, can a company be both tech enabled and tech? Like, can you have a consumer facing arm selling, let's say, beer, and on the
Mhm.
back end, you're enabling other companies launching something in that realm? So, can you function as that? If yes, why? If no, why? And is there value in that?
There is value for that in the long term, but not in the short term. And the reason for that is because when I'm running a beer, like, for example, I say this at possibly every podcast or every conversation I do now, that I want AB and Bev or any of the big beer companies in the world to launch a bread beer, because that will exponentially increase the size of the whole market of bread beer. And when these big companies have to go out and do something, they will eventually come to a smaller company who has probably done this, either acquire or lease or license or something like that, or a possible commercial arrangement for them to get the expertise to do this. Right? Because they don't want to spend the time and the effort to be actually able to invest all of that money and time for vain, because they have to justify their efforts to their shareholders as well. But coming back to the point, so for example, we have the recipe of making beer from bread, right? Like, we were able to figure that out within 6 months, and AB and Bev can figure that out in 1 month. Like probably they have like 10x the resources. 10x is also an underestimation. More resources that we can ever imagine. But compared to a more complicated product, right? It's like for I think this was Chamath who said this in a podcast, the
Yeah.
Coca-Cola example, which was so relevant. Like when refrigeration came out, like the fact that you can refrigerate things, like people thought that this is the next big idea. Like people are gonna go crazy, and the companies which make refrigerators and refrigeration are gonna be the biggest companies in the world because you're increasing shelf life exponentially. But no, the companies which actually became successful were the companies which built off their entire businesses on refrigeration. And the biggest example is Coca-Cola. They made refrigerated trucks, they made refrigerated planes, and now they're able to ship their product to every place in the world because they use refrigeration to build an empire. So AI is something similar, right? The companies which are building AI are giving you everything possible to build something. And now the companies which build on that stack of AI, something which is revolutionary, are the companies which will actually survive. So you need to really make the understanding very clear that tech enabled can be your tech, it can be someone else's tech. Like for example, at Breer as well, like there are so many small things which we have done to like outsource or like basically make our lives easier. Like whenever corporate purchase order comes in, like like if it's a PDF document, the order is going to be at one place, the amount is going to be at one place, right? And earlier, someone would have to take that PDF, convert that into an invoice and a delivery note. The invoice would go to the purchase order company, and the delivery note would go to our 3PL. And it was an admin person doing this. And now you get an online software which can read PDFs and can integrate with your CRM or accounting system. They will read the PDF, make a client name, put the amount, generate an invoice, generate a delivery note, send it to the respective parties with a templatized email. So we literally cut out a job. Like, okay, I'm not for cutting out jobs, but we saved so much time and effort so that me, Anushka, my team can focus on other stuff in life or other stuff in business. So is that tech enabled? Yes, but probably not big enough. But there can be so many things which are tech enabled. Like supply chain can be crazily tech enabled if you want to make it tech enabled, right? Backend operations can be so much tech enabled if you want to make it tech enabled. Retail, which is struggling right now because they're not tech enabled, will have to make themselves tech enabled. Like, okay, I'm probably stretching on this answer, but I met this company, and what they're trying to do is there are CCTVs in every retail store in the world, right? And if you're going to a retail store today, like if I'm going to a supermarket today, right? And I go at a certain shelf, which is say the oat milk or the cereal shelf, and the camera captures me, like they will recognize me that I was X person who was interested in oat milk or oatmeal for like say 60 seconds. And that captures my interest, that creates an omni cookie that I was omnipresent in that shelf space. And when I go home, I will get an ad about oat milk from the same company. So your retail presence can now call your, like influence your online purchasing behaviors.
So
So many questions.
Rishabh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
crazy amount of questions. So Rishabh actually spends a lot of his time figuring out exactly this, right? How to
Yeah.
determine consumer perception when they see a product and all of that. So
I'd
just
like to
wanted
add
like
like one thing which
yeah.
like on into
Mhm.
R&D.
Did we lose him?
Oh
Yeah, I think
no.
a bit.
Yeah. I can
Ali
hear
got
you
a
guys.
problem, guys.
Okay.
I can hear
Go
you
on, go
guys. You
on.
can hear me, right?
Wait. Okay, wait. No, we'll have to cut the entire thing, right? So just give me like a break. Now continue.
You
Did
can hear
we
me, right?
lose him again? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're good. I think the earlier point I was trying to put across was that the issue happens or a founder gets confused when they mistake tech enabled as a tech company. So I think that there's the issue. So should just founders be honest that okay, this is a consumer product
Mhm.
and this is the technology behind it, and But the issue then becomes you might not be able to raise if you want to. So how do you like
Exactly. So
navigate
But you don't need
that's
to.
the point. That's exactly the point, that you don't need to raise. That's the
right?
whole point. If
Okay.
you are a consumer company, right, and there's like, for example, like the best way to grow, like if you're building a tech company, or tech in the sense that you require a lot of R&D, like you're building a EV company, you're building an AI company, which requires a lot of R&D for you to actually do something from scratch, you need exorbitant amount of money. And that can only be coming from a VC or private equity or something like that. But if you're building something like Breer or something like Possible, it's very sexy to go out and raise money, right? But Breer raised close to 5 million Hong Kong dollars only through grants and competitions, never diluted a single percent of equity of the company. And we still have so much money to invest into, like, optimization, supply chain, manufacturing, scale, marketing, like hiring. And we did not have to do that, because by the time we got to the point, our revenues can sustain us now. Like, that
Right.
money is parked well enough, safe enough, and we don't need to touch it until unless we're like, okay, now one day let's go out and open Japan, Korea, Singapore as three markets for us. Then we need that money, because then we need 3021s in three different parts of the world.
Agreed. That's extremely interesting, and congratulations on that. I think seeing your journey, at least for us, was very motivating. यार हम भी कर सकते हैं. And the question now is, you have to make things sexy. That's how
Mm-hmm.
anything sells.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you make Breer sexy to someone who's writing you a grant? Let's say government school. What is the pitch?
The pitch is the product, as simple as that. Like, it is your story and how riveting it is, because everything in this world is a factor of storytelling, right? There's nothing else which sells until unless you can tell a good story. Like with Breer or with any other company in the world, paid PR in the world day by day is becoming so expensive, because there are companies which can throw exorbitant amounts of money on PR, right? You can do that as well, but then you will be burning off money which you could have actually invested in product development or distribution on PR. But for a product like Breer, because it was a unique or an unheard of concept, like probably before Arman, Samyak, or Rishabh, you guys met me, you would have never imagined that a product like this can exist. Even though you would have heard about beer like 100 times in your life, like Kingfisher or Corona or Budweiser or whatever, right? But no one can think that a beer can be made from surplus bread. And that's why you need to really take that core 8 word proposition and hammer it to someone for them to believe that, okay, you're cut out for something different. Like, you're trying to do something different which no one else is trying to do, and you're trying to be a different company from all the other companies which already exist in the market. And when you have that big enough of a market differentiation, your story is already 50% there in terms of compelling. And the rest of the 50% is actually about what the founders are the founders true to their purpose, and then what do you actually build as the ancillary image of your company. Like, for example, me being on a podcast with you guys, it creates digital presence because people will hear my thoughts through your podcast. Similarly, Anushka is on multiple podcast forums. Like, that's founder presence, right? Another way we talk to our consumers is packaging. And obviously, Rishabh would be really excited when I talk about packaging as well, right? But packaging is so important because your can needs to stand out from all the other cans in the market. And that's another way of you talking to your consumer. And that's another way of storytelling. Like, if you can be a conversation starter between two other smart people who haven't heard about Breer before, then you're doing something right. Like, when we're at booths now, someone will come to us and be like, we will explain the concept to them that, hey, we do like craft beer which is made from surplus bread. Then they will go and tell it to two other people, they will go and tell it to two other people, and then we'll get more audience organically. But what can a normal beer company do? We make beer and we have a new flavor. Like, okay, but I don't like chocolate beer, what about it? Right? But everyone will want to go for a beer which no one has heard of before.
So I think in this scenario, the bottle of bread, no BOB that you have, That really excites me. Like on the packaging, you can see the outlet of the bread. Like it's very visual. It
No,
actually
those are
depicts.
our cans. So those are our cans. Those are cans which look like this.
Correct.
And so there at least 3 months went into finalizing the packaging of or the brand identity of what we actually want to do. Because again, I think a really important point about packaging is you need a lot of user feedback. Like when you're going out in the market, and every market is different, first of all. Like
Yeah.
right now, my sister is a market researcher. So she's right now working for Tata in India, because Tata is trying to figure out regional marketing for India, like different states, different packaging. Because people associate to different things. In Uttar Pradesh, they want Taj Mahal on the Tata tea packet, but in Delhi, we want Red Fort. In Mumbai, we want Bandravalli Ceiling. So people will associate to different things. Why should a Mumbai person associate to Red Fort just because he's Indian? Like we
So,
have so much to celebrate within our differentiations as well, right?
so, just wanted to ask one more question around packaging, right? So, a lot of founders tend to think that their entire brand is just the packaging, and this is something
Yeah.
Rishabh was grateful enough to convey to us at the starting of our journey कि तुम्हारा packaging is not your brand. And an example I really love is that if Nike made a hotel today, we would know how it looked like. But if Hyatt made a shoe today, we have no idea what that shoe would look like, right? So, uh, how important is that for someone who is trying to build a consumer-facing product? And sure, the backend might have technology, like in the case of Breer, but how important is that process?
And
I
and
think
also and also, how can your product not be your whole company? One
yeah.
product.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
How
think
can that be not? Yeah.
mhm.
That's
No,
going on.
both of these are actually very relevant questions. Because packaging, as I said, that like what is a like okay, let's break down brand at the very core level. What is brand? What is a brand? Like, okay, Arman, what do you think? Just like, what is a brand?
I think it's a feeling that you get when you buy something. Like
Okay,
It's
it
a,
stands for
okay,
it's
something.
a
no, I need one line. Feeling you get. Samyak, what is a brand?
Ambition.
Ambition. And Rishabh, what is a
yeah.
brand?
So I would say that
Okay, perfect. In my idea, and I know we're going to have a lot of Hindi and English listeners. So in my idea, brand means aukat, as simple as that. Brand means reputation or credibility. That's it. And if you're a person, okay, forget that you're an entrepreneur, you're just Arman, you're just Samyak, you're not, co-founders of Possible, you don't do anything in life. If you want to build a credibility about yourself, right? You want to build credibility about yourself. How will you do it? Go out and speak to people. Like, go out and actually convey your thoughts that, hey, I'm Arman, I'm interested in plant-based foods. Hey, I'm Samyak, I'm interested in this. And that's how you actually communicate to people that you are X. Like, this is your identity. And that's the core level of a brand. So as a brand, when you are a company, a brand is about people recognizing you or people going for you because they want you. That's a brand. Like people just knowing about you. And like, for example, the difference between there's a bread beer in Hong Kong, it's really famous, versus there's Breer in Hong Kong. The only bread beer in Hong Kong is the difference between a brand and not a brand. Like when other breweries tried to do bread beers, no one even remembers them. And like it was so funny, it happened recently that there was a beer festival in Hong Kong, and one of our competitor breweries had actually done a bread beer by collaborating with a hotel. And there's a platform called Untapped where people put reviews for beers. Like if you drink a beer, you can take the
mm,
photo and put a review on that platform. People were drinking that other brewery's beer thinking that we made it because it was
Wow.
bread beer.
yeah.
This actually, yeah, I think Rishabh has
It's
something to say, but prior to that, I think ये बड़ा interesting है. इंडिया में भी यार कोलगेट देना, यार
कि
Very
Xerox
good.
जेरोक्स करवा दे,
Xerox करा दे like
जेरोक्स
So,
the
जेरोक्स
the
करवा दे.
the
I
thing
had a
Handycam,
very interesting. Sorry, go on, Rishabh.
like in
Yeah.
early days, people used to call black
Mhm.
cold drink. It is Coke. It's not Thumbs
कोक
Up.
दियो.
It's not
So when
But
I first got to Singapore, right, I wanted Fevicol for like a project I had to make. So I went to like the fact that I said Fevicol
very
and
cool, exactly.
I went to like the fair price here and I'm like, can I have a Fevicol? And she had no idea what I was talking about. But yeah, the everyday examples
So,
that we see around.
So
which in the core sense is औकात. Like तुम्हारे brand की क्या reputation है? As simple as that. And
so
honestly, I differ with Rishabh here because, like, it's a very, like, me and my sister, because my sister's a market researcher and I'm an entrepreneur. So I think in three worlds and she thinks in one world because she really sees the world as a market researcher. So I every time ask her, like, what are some of your insights when you do these market research? And I actually disagree with Rishabh ki Coke का अभी भी इंडिया में ब्रांड नहीं बना है
Thumbs
because
up.
if you नहीं नहीं अभी भी if someone in the majority population of India wants a Coke, they will like ठंडा देना. They will not say Coke, thumbs up
हाँ,
or Sprite or anything.
Right.
There for them, for उनको चाहिए वो black drink की, but उनको चाहिए ठंडा, which means black drink, which means Coke or Pepsi.
fair
Right.
हाँ,
point.
Huh?
so like
And
brand conversation can't happen
India,
without the
that why
user.
is a very difficult market because in
Yeah.
India you cannot have one market research. You need like 100 different market researches only for one product.
So how
100%.
do you? The question is again very interesting. How do you make your company beyond one product?
I think
Like how do you build for that?
that is a factor of knowing who your consumer is. Because, like if you're not making an integrated product setup, like for example, if possible, tomorrow starts making t-shirts. No one cares about you because you diluted your brand image like anything, right? But if you started making pet food bowls and you started selling that as an add-on to your pet food, I would still be like, okay, that's a natural extension of where I could have taken this product line, right?
Love to see.
Similarly for Breer, like when we think about flavors today, we launched our first flavor, which was a pale ale, and the thought process of doing that was it's the most basic form of beer. If I have to sell someone on my concept who gives no damn about sustainability, like they don't care about sustainability at all, they probably are using a plastic bag in front of me, right? They don't care about sustainability at all, but they like beer. I will still be like, drink this because this is just like any other beer. Now that's my first type of consumer, which is just oblivious to anything but likes beer. My second type of consumer is a consumer which has grown up drinking a $8, $10 Qingdao beer, or in India, it's the same example that someone who has grown up drinking Kingfisher at 50 rupees will never pay now 200 rupees for a bira because they've been used to $50 price, 50 rupees price point for Kingfisher. Similarly, for us, agar I have to sell to someone who's an absolute local in Hong Kong, right? For me, I cannot beat a company on price, but I can still beat them on curiosity and flavor. And that's how I launched our second product, which was our pineapple bun IPA. Now, pineapple buns are nostalgic to Hong Kong. It's like
Yeah.
naan to India or dosa to South Indians, right? It's so nostalgic to that identity of that particular person. Like every morning for breakfast, when people are going to work in Hong Kong, they will stop at a local bakery and take a pineapple bun. Like it's like 1-to-1 for pineapple bun to a person in Hong Kong. So now, if I'm going to a traditional Qingdao drinker and be like, we make a pineapple bun beer, would you like to try it? Their answer will be yes. Because they
Very
have not heard of this at all ever before in their lives.
very interesting. I think something else can be egg tart beer. Egg
We're
tart
already
beer.
making it.
Oh
Arre
wow.
wow. Lovely.
Yeah. We made it for a company right now, and now we're trying to bring it into our own product line. So there's a company in Hong Kong called Hong Kong Tramways, the company which operates trams all across the world actually, and they are called Hong Kong Tramways or Ding Ding. So basically, we're doing a full story with them in Hong Kong, where on the tram route, where can you find both egg tarts and egg tart beers? So we're going to do a full campaign like that where we're going to have influencers on board a tram and then take egg tarts and actually egg tart beers as well. And that's why. So now I have two very differentiated product market offerings. Like my third product was a hibiscus sour. And whether or not you like it, but market research never lies. girls love pink as a color. Like girls just love pink and guys don't like pink, right? And beer as a product is considered to be a male machoistic product that, oh, beer only male will drink it. But it's because no one actually cared talking to the female market. But when we launched our sour variant, we were like, we want to make it a very typical woman product. The packaging should be pink. The color of the beer should be pink. So if you pour our hibiscus sour, the color of the beer is also pink. And half of the girls are just like, okay, Instagram time, pink beer. Like they're already sold at, that moment. So then I am catering to another market which was not exposed to beer before, which is females. Now when I'm launching more products, now I think in two directions. There is an expat white population which wants good beer and does not care about what's the flavor of the beer. And some of them actually know the difference between pale ale, IPA, sour, Weiser, what's the difference between types of beer. And there's another market of beer which only drinks beer which is yeast water, because they don't even drink beer. Like Qingdao and Blue Girl and Ice and all of these local brands are literally yeast water. Like they're not even beers, they're so bad, but they still drink it. If I have to break this ice, I can only break it through flavors which they associate to. So for this, I will launch flavors like pineapple bun, egg tart, egg waffle, pandan, black sesame, because these are the red bean. These are the products which they associate to. These are the flavor profiles which they associate to. So you need
Lovely.
to really understand who's your different consumers and then cater to them differently. And that's a part of your brand identity, that both segments know you as a different brand. Like some people only know us because we make pineapple bun IPA. And that's completely fine with me, because that's all I want you to know. That's intentional. I want you to only know this product because this was made for you.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. This also, again, you talked about user personas. We were also in that conversation and we realized, at least for us, religion can be a driver. Like we can explain that later. But how much is sustainability a driver for you? Is it more like a cherry on top of the cake?
Because our thesis is, and correct us if we're wrong, that आपका product has to be the best, and oh by the way ये earth के लिए भी अच्छा है.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something the consumer is essentially green premium, something the consumer cares about, especially in India?
Not India. Like let's talk Hong Kong
Let's talk
first,
Hong
then
Kong.
talk India.
Okay, I'll address three perspectives: Asia, Hong Kong, Singapore, everything included; Europe, which includes America and Europe; and India, because India is a separate beast altogether,
Yeah.
right? Hong Kong, sustainability is a very expat term. Like if you're an expat in Hong Kong, which is 20% of Hong Kong population, like the Brits, the Americans, the French, like we basically have everyone here because of the banks. And those people will care about sustainability. Like those people are actually like, okay, let me go and buy a more sustainable product. Let me go and buy a more greener product. And if you tell them to pay $10 more as well, they don't care. They will. Then there's a there's a local consumer in Hong Kong who again has grown up drinking beer at the price which is way lesser. And now you're saying that, okay, first of all, we're a different taste than what you drink. Second of all, we're a different price than what you pay. Will you still buy us? And their answer is no. Because तुम्हारा टेस्ट भी खराब है, तुम्हें महंगा भी बेचना है, तो तुमसे मैं क्यों लूं? Like उनके लिए तो वो mindset हो गया ना. So it's very important to understand that green premium, who you can charge it from. And I'll give you a very, like, again, people will listen to it, but they should learn from this. For example, when I sell, like that, Hong Kong is divided into three islands: Hong Kong Island, New Territories, and Kowloon. There are three islands which comprise of Hong Kong. Hong Kong Island, all the expats stay in Hong Kong Island. And then Kowloon, New Territories, all the oldies, all the old uncles stay in New Territories. Kowloon, a mix of both. Some expats, some young people, some old people. Kowloon is a mix of both. Now, Breer typically sells very well on the Hong Kong Island because expat population, people know about us, people hear about us, and it's all the people who work in the big MNCs, and that's why it's relevant to them. Doesn't really sell well in New Territories and Kowloon, but now with the new flavors, we're expecting more penetration. So now, so for example, we recently set up a booth somewhere in Kowloon, and I was selling a can for $40. right? Because Kowloon, it's a mixed place, so $40 is a good price. When I'm selling in new territories, if I charge anything more than 25, nothing selling. Because वहां पे तो नहीं देने वाला कोई. And now when I sell in Hong Kong Island, I charge 50, people will still pay. So that's the curse of MRP in India, but in Hong Kong, you don't have MRP. So that's good. Now, another example is I can go to a place like Sai Kung, which is a part in Hong Kong, where it's all the expat population, which is now super rich in the sense that they don't want to stay in the city, they want to stay in a nice beach house. It's like Malibu now. Like तुम Malibu में आ गए हो, या तुम like like Mountain View में आ गए हो, या तुम कोई ऐसी like Fresno में आ गए हो, like you're 60 miles away from the city, you'll travel to the city, you'll travel to the city every day, but you want good quality air, you want like 10 people around you, 2 good restaurants, you want a dog, a daughter, a son, and a wife to stay happy in life. That's what you need. When I set up a booth there, I've sold beers for 150 a can as well. Because those people really don't care about money. Like they're like, oh, sustainable beer, give it to me. As simple as. And I'll tell you an example. So there was a very famous wine company which had set up a booth, and there was a local wine company who was making beer, was making wine at the local vineyard in somewhere in like South France or something like that. The popular wine company, hardly anyone was going there. The local niche one vineyard South France company was selling bottles at 6,000, 7,000 Hong Kong dollars, and the expats were buying. Because then at that area and income in life, you care about what really matters in the world, which is
You care
quality.
about stories.
Exactly.
You care about stories.
Exactly.
Like, तो तूने सुना मैंने वो ली. Like whenever you're talking, okay, high story value.
I met a student who ran a company out of his dorm room and now makes sustainable beer, which is one of the kind in the world. That's a story you will tell to another rich person.
Correct. It's high story. I think that's another reason why a lot of people who have made it angel invest.
Yes.
They want that कि यार मैंने उसमें पैसा डाला है. And they want that high.
100%. And this is Hong Kong now. If you go to Europe, there like I think for Europe and America, the thing like I stayed in US for 6 months, and only one takeaway from US and Europe, because I can generalize at this point, is that their economies which are built on the idea of hype and sensationalism. Agar they have like something which is 10%, they will show it as 100%. Like they're built on the word of hype and sensationalism. Like in India, we have so much to offer, but we don't sensationalize it enough. And they have nothing to offer, but then they still sensationalize it so much. Like compared to US monuments, come to Indian monuments, man. They're so much better. But like turmeric, like everything. Every possible thing. Like they made eating on a banana leaf so hyped up in the US, whereas we've been doing it for decades and centuries and generations in India, right? But we don't care about it. So, but in Europe, like for example, now if I speak to someone in Europe, they're so radicalized by the idea of sustainability. They're like, okay, I'm going to a supermarket and mujhe kuch chahiye. And if the supermarket in general is just using plastic bags, no, like I have my own cloth bag which I can do my shopping in, and I've brought that to the supermarket. But the supermarket is still using plastic bags, they won't buy from it. Just because they're doing plastic something related.
Is that also related to their image?
No, exactly. So the point is, we are like Indians in general are believers that if we practice or preach something, we're happy to do that. We don't want to impose it on you. You do you, we do we, right? But Americans and West, and I think it's a trend now that the West thinks that it's only about them. Like what they're doing is right.
Yeah.
Like as a result of them being white and right, I don't think so. That makes a lot of sense. So for them to if you're vegan, the rest of the world should also be vegan. No, man. Like, okay, if a non-vegetarian converts from a non-vegetarian to a vegan because he or she understands the benefits, good for them. But there are people who will eat non-vegetarian, let them be. They will still do it. So
I think
Europe and America, the curse is that it's too radicalized. Like it's good for business, but I feel it's too radicalized of a market now.
Main character energy.
Exactly. Main character energy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, दुनिया चला रहा हूँ.
Exactly.
But
So
I think
that's that. Yeah, go on.
another interesting thing, like I'll change the conversation now.
Before that,
Inside
India
the
पे तो आ जाते हैं main beast.
Haha. I
oh
think
huh.
I
Oh
think
yeah, sorry.
India is very, it's a, like, India is the most difficult market to crack. And if you're in sustainability, like the difficulty increases by hundredfold. Because in India, first of all, very price sensitive market, very price sensitive, like the most price sensitive market you can think of, honestly. And more than price sensitive, it's also a market where the person who has the money is probably still not controlling the purchase decision.
Yeah.
Like, even if I am earning more than my father, अगर मुझे घर में आज भी कुछ ग्रोसरी आइटम लाना है, if I'm staying in India, my mom will dictate that choice, even if it could be bad for me. But my mom will still dictate that choice. So even if I'm the earner, I am not the product purchaser. So that becomes really difficult, because now if you're going out with friends, right? Probably it's like one person who's imposing their order on everyone. Like, okay, let's everyone order a bira, everyone order a kingfisher, everyone order a Jägermeister, everyone order a whiskey. Like, it's just one person imposing their order, which is again very difficult to crack. And the absence of brand loyalty in India, until unless you are a mega company, mega is the word where you can establish brand loyalty in India. Like, the biggest brand loyalty I see in India is Tata Tea. Like, Tata Tea is a loyalty in India. Like, you will not drink any other tea, even if like Reliance launches a tea tomorrow, it will not establish a market, because Tata Tea.
Brand
And
vote.
there are many separate brands like this in India who've been able to do this, but the it's very difficult to build brand loyalty in India. Like, one, and again, like, India is so big of a market that if even if you're building brand loyalty, it's amongst a certain subset of consumers, not pan India. Like, Tata Tea is not used by the South Indians because they want filter coffee. They want their decoctions, they want their things like that. But North India, Tata Tea has good penetration. Similarly, Royal Enfield, Punjabis, they will only buy a Bullet because Bullet means Punjabi, right? That's the brand loyalty which they've created amongst the Punjabi population. But in South India, it's TVS, and they will buy TVS. So India is too big of a market to have a pan-India brand loyalty, because I personally feel that the day a brand achieves that, it's probably going to be top 10 richest wherever that person is, if a brand is able to achieve pan-India brand loyalty, because it's 1.4 billion people loyal to a brand.
I think best example
Indian
here.
cricket is the only brand that
And
has
ICC and
loyalty
like
in India.
BCCI is rich.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another
Look at IPL or something like
another
that.
example is, yeah. Another example here is Parle G.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Parle G, insane loyalty and pan India.
Sure, but that's a price-centric game. That's
Yeah,
not a biscuit quality game. That's only because it's the cheapest, and it became a norm because it was the cheapest.
correct.
So it's not like, definitely there's
It's a
brand
price
value
war.
there, but it's a price loyalty attached to it. And the day Parle-G becomes 20 rupees, see the loyalty diminish like this. Parle-G is 5 rupees, and that's why it has loyalty.
Shrinkflation, no, like the size of the pack continues to reduce, but the price is the same.
So,
That's
Exactly.
also very interesting in India, no? Extremely interesting.
100%.
so do you think, a controversial question, do you think the D2C startups that are raising a lot of money and are IPOing will reach that profitable mass because loyalty, right? I'll give you one example. At Possible, we were thinking that, okay, let's also list on these quick commerce delivery platforms. And Arman's choice was go to Zomato. My choice
Mhm.
was go to Swiggy because Swiggy is more dominant in the south. No one thinks of Zomato. In the north, it's the other way around. And for every category where US has one dominant startup, or Singapore, here Grab does everything, we have like 4 or 5 startups. So how do you break that curse? Or should you not even think of venturing in spaces like that?
No, I think venturing in spaces is definitely needed, because you need to definitely venture, because it's also accessibility, right? Like, today, accessibility in India is key. Like, if your product is accessible, only then it can be purchased. And that's why Kirana distribution is still the biggest, like logger hole in so many distribution companies, because D2C is still only 2 or 3% of India's market. Okay, probably 5% with Geo and UPI, but 95% of the India is still, like going to a local shop and still buying stuff. So it's the reverse user push basically.
I think we lost him, no?
Okay, I think I lost everyone for a second.
Yeah, we,
Hello.
we lost you.
Lost
Yeah, we
again.
lost
Okay,
Yeah, you,
you. Okay,
okay,
yeah.
perfect. Okay, yeah. So in India, I think, you need to be really accessible to be able to, like cater to that mass market. And accessibility means visibility. Like you need to be visible to people. Like, for example, I think Bira, in terms of a beer, is doing a good brand to be visible, that now a tier two person also recognizes what Bira is, which earlier wasn't the case. Because like it's very layered if you think about in India, like, like now, if there's a concert happening in a tier 2 city, like Bira's still there to sponsor that concert.
again lost him.
Yeah, we lost you. Now you're back. Yep.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening. It's not even my internet's full connection, but okay, whatever. But yeah, so like Bira is now actually going and sponsoring events in tier 2 cities of India as well. And that just adds to visibility. Oh, मैंने इसको यहाँ देखा था. Oh, मैंने इसको यहाँ देखा था. या ये कर रहा था. अभी they're sponsoring the World Cup. Like they're literally a sponsor for the World Cup where everyone is seeing Bira logo. So I think all of that counts. So the point is building a brand in India and then catering to that entire huge market, like the Zomato versus Swiggy debate, right? That's not a decision which you will take based on is Zomato a better brand or is Swiggy a better brand. That's the decision you need to take on कि Zomato or Swiggy में से which company serves your target audience more. That's the decision making factor there, that if your market's more North India, then it's Zomato. If your market's more South India, then it's Swiggy. And then you need to really understand market loyalty in the sense of Blinkit versus Instamart, right? Like there's Blinkit and there's Instamart. What's happening? I have no idea what's happening behind me here.
I think it's because you did this and the AI detected
Really?
like celebration and yeah.
It did not do for you.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
no. Happy Diwali,
Okay.
guys. Go on.
Happy Diwali, makes sense. Good plug-in. Happy Diwali, guys. But yeah, so it, like for example, like Blinkit, like I really follow Albinder on like Twitter, and I keep seeing his updates on Twitter, and like the ingenuity, like for example, selling gold coins on Blinkit, that you could get gold coins delivered in 10 minutes. You could get Manyavar kurtas delivered in 10 minutes for Diwali. Ka दिवाली पार्टी है कुछ लेना भूल गए 10 मिनट में कुर्ता आ रहा है. Like it's crazy how the penetration can be, but that penetration is only limited to Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad. Beyond that, no one's ordering a kurta on Blinkit.
Yeah.
So it's again the decision which you guys need to take is really has to be well informed by who's your target audience. Like personally for me, like, and I think Abhi, I saw Dipinder Goyal on the Beer Bicep podcast as well, and I was listening to that podcast. And the one notable observation which I felt was really relevant was that the Zomato app user experience is better than Swiggy app user experience. Personally. And I personally believe that when I use both the apps as well. And I think that's why a lot of Gen Z's, millennials, the first app they open is Zomato. Then they do a price comparison between Zomato and Swiggy, and then they order. But it's also about the first app which they're open.
So interestingly, in the South, it's quite the opposite. It has nothing to
100%.
do with क्योंकि वो बन गया ना. In the South, they've been very good with अरे स्विगी कर लो.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting dynamics within India can be a conversation on forever and ever. Another thing that
100%.
we wanted to touch upon was should consumer brands or direct to consumer brands even consider B2B or traditional distribution?
100%. Because B2B is the best way to make money anywhere in the world. Because you're dealing with which is it's a longer sales cycle for sure compared to going out and selling to a consumer, but it's a more secure sales cycle. because there's definitely going to be someone who has more money than you. Like, and the biggest and the best example of that is Amazon. That Amazon, the reason why they're able to do everything and anything in the world is because of they make most of their money through AWS, which is B2B. And their retail arm or their online e-commerce arm is still loss making. But they make all of their money through AWS because it's B2B. Same for Breer. Like for Breer, the reason why we have so much revenue and capital to focus on our B2C operations, it's because we have Maxim's, Pizza Hut, all of these big companies for our B2B operations. And when they place an order, it's not $1,000 for 4 cases MOQ. It's like 4,000 cases for 200,000 Hong Kong dollars. Those are order volumes, and those can help you conduct 3 more production runs, have many more new and differentiated product offerings, go and test out in the market and figure out use cases in the market. So you really need B2B to actually fuel B2C, and that this actually circles back to the whole VC private equity conversation. 10 B2B clients is better than having a VC father on your cap table who will dictate how you run business. Having 10 B2B clients who can sustain your cash flows and have a build, be a cash cow on your income sheet, leading that money into B2C pilots, B2C testing is so much more valuable than an investor telling you, चलो अब मुझे अगले 2 महीने में इतना सेल चाहिए वरना next round raise नहीं कर रहे हो.
So, very valid. Something that's resonating. I can see with me and Arman and Rishabh as well with all his experience with B2C companies in their early stages. What does B2B for a B2C brand mean? Does it mean white labeling for others or does it mean collaborations? Because sometimes you don't want to go to like your competitor and then give them your product and not even have anything to like. I don't want to go to like Pedigree and give them like our topper and then not even have possible foods anywhere on that package just because they can give me a lot of money. So what does
Okay.
that mean?
So I honestly probably am 2 ways about it. Like if ABN Bev comes to me tomorrow and be like, can you make a bread beer to me? I would say yes in a heartbeat. Because the scale which I like on like yes, I would push for a collaboration of saying that this should be pedigree into possible or Breer into AB and Bev rather than only AB and Bev. But it's about the fact that you would still get so much money out of that entire deal, and you can use that money to propel so many other things. Like, okay, realistically, Samyak, like for you to compete with pedigree on a 20-year timeline as well, do you think it's feasible if you don't have money? You'll either have to raise VC money or you'll have to get revenue from somewhere to be able to get money to be able to compete at the scale which pedigree is operating, right? So either you get VC money and then you dilute your own shares within that whole proposition, or you get money and strategic advice from a company which has been there and done that,
Right.
which I feel is very valuable. But I would say that it could be white labeling, it could be collaboration, it could be any possible B2B avenue. But the fact that companies are more generous in terms of selling to, like, the biggest example which I see today is corporate gifting. That's a B2B market. You're selling to a corporate so that they can put your product in their corporate New Year, Christmas gift boxes, and they're still buying tons and tons of your product for gifting. And then someone's getting that gift. Like for example, today we're making so many products, like not products, it's our products, but they just have a label of that bank or brand, like JP Morgan beer, good for the planet, good for you guys, this is here for Earth Day, right? Now I don't care if someone did not know that this was made by Breer or this was made by someone else. I'll tell you why. Because if it is a bread beer in Hong Kong, people know that it was made by Breer. And that's the factor of brand or Okat where we started with.
So,
That if someone got a bread beer in Hong Kong, they know it was made by us.
so you need the B2C arm for that brand equity, and you get your revenue in through B2B to funnel those B2C operations again. It's like a full
Exactly.
cycle.
That's a perfect articulation, Armani. Yes.
Very interesting. So, what are the conversations for co-branding like? Like, what is your pitch to them? Is it sustainability?
Yes, it's sustainability. And co-branding conversations are usually difficult because for some of the bigger brands, they really don't want to entertain it. But then it's about, I think, what you can offer in terms of those co-branded conversations and how you can actually, like, say for example, when we wanted to do a co-branded packaging with Maxim, our proposition was not sustainability, because Maxim does a lot more for sustainability than honestly we do. Our proposition was that it would be an example setting opportunity for Maxims in Hong Kong to be supporting a college startup, because no conglomerate right now in Hong Kong has supported a college startup. And when you read like when our first SCMP article came out, the heading of that SCMP article was Maxim's Caterers, Hong Kong's biggest food and beverage company, supports the dream of 4 university students.
Right.
So you sell, you give them what they lack the most.
Exactly. They wanted credibility, but they have sustainability credibility already. So what credibility can you offer to them which is differentiated enough for them to leave a dent in the market? So now, for example, when we started working with them, we were only doing bread beer, right? But we obviously like think 10 steps ahead. Maxims also owns Starbucks in Hong Kong. Like they own the franchisee of Starbucks in Hong Kong, and we knew that Starbucks is a big brand. We can definitely do something here. So we started thinking, and we proposed the fact that we want to make a coffee stout, and the coffee stout will be made from coffee grounds, which is the powder which is left after churning coffee beans. You use the coffee extraction, and then you basically they will throw away the powder. There's nothing left in the powder. We said, give us the coffee powder. Let's make a coffee stout together made from your Starbucks outlets. And let's market it as Starbucks made a beer. Want to try it?
Lovely.
And then it's not even selling in Starbucks. It doesn't even sell in Starbucks. But the name of Starbucks is associated with it.
So essentially, if I had to summarize all of this for people who might want to start direct to consumer, Rancho said ज्ञान जहाँ भी मिल रहा है बैठ के ले लो, धंधा जहाँ से भी आ रहा है, just get it and just get the cash in, because that's what you're meant to do, irrespective of whether you're running a traditional business or like a startup.
I would beg to differ on that. Like, I think matching of values is extremely key if I am in business with anyone. I think if that is clear and it's fine for the brand, then I'll pursue. Then धंधा कहीं से भी ले लो. But I mean, I understand the proposition कि B2B रोकना नहीं चाहिए. हाँ.
Okay, I'll ask you an ethical question here, like a ethical dilemma. For example, you are a D2C brand. D2C brands are fueled by ad money, right? Like they spend a lot of like their money on ads and things like that. Like there are two examples, but I'll go with like one example and we can ponder over the next. But if, for example, you are spending D2C money on ads, and some like you're making an ad where you're saying that X celebrity wore my product, or X celebrity is associated with my brand, right? You're saying that, and the next day that celebrity goes and makes an politically intensive statement, like something on Israel or Palestine, something on India and Pakistan. They make a politically sensitive comment, right? Now, any publicity is good publicity. You're getting a lot of publicity that's converting in a lot of ad revenue for you, because people are searching about you, then eventually landing on your page and buying your products. But will you still continue doing it because that's getting you money? Or will you stop doing that, or you'll stop your association with the celebrity because the celebrity made a politically sensitive comment? What will you do, Arman?
Is the question only to me?
Oh, I'll ask everyone. What will you do?
I think we'll start with Rishabh on this.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So
It converts to publicity.
yeah.
And for online brands who are running ads to convert to products or convert to sales, when people click on ads and lead to the website, that's almost a sale for them, because then the customer becomes a warm customer. They're in their funnel. They will convert the customer, if not today, then 2 months later, because वो funnel में आ गया.
Yeah, population.
Yeah, exactly.
So Snapdeal के reviews भी कम होने start हो गए थे. So for me, I would like मेरा
Yeah.
CTR.
Okay, Samyak.
For me, it really depends on the consumer, right? Let's take the Hong Kong example only. Now, if it's like that person living in the Malibu of Hong Kong who's resonating with your company only because they strongly believe in your mission and your story, this is eliminating that driver, which is the main driver for them, right? Because that person who's buying it just because it's sustainable or just because it's a good brand will not want to buy it.
Yeah,
But
but your brand did not do anything wrong. It's a person associated with the brand which did something wrong.
agreed, but it will their main factor of consumption is only that these guys are doing good things, etc., etc., etc. That would somewhere in their subconscious take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's that kind of audience, probably pull back on it. If it's like an India audience, I don't know. Depends on what said person has said, personal bias, etc., etc., seeing reaction. Because the thing is, as you mentioned, India is so cluttered and there's so much content being thrown at you. If there's any way you can make it stick, you'd probably want to do that, right? So really depends. I mean, for me, it would come down to personal beliefs. If I'm like, that's not cool with me, I'd take the liberty to stop it. Uh, uh,
So you'll take a hit on the business based on your personal beliefs.
Not exactly that. Though I would say that,
You play both cards, no?
yeah, depends on
So
what the said statement is.
I think it's very statement oriented. बोला क्या और कौन से argument में अगर
But
personally
that's the point. Like, I'll give you a very, very, very relevant example. So I know a founder in Hong Kong, and who's that mod? Gigi Hadid. Gigi Hadid, it's a jewelry company, and Gigi Hadid wore their products, right? And right now it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's the holiday sale period. So they were doing ads like Gigi Hadid wore our products, you should buy too, something like that. And
अभी
Gigi Hadid went out and made a comment, and her comment, quote unquote, was that I don't support either Israel or Gaza, but people should stop dying. That's it. That was her comment, paraphrased in whatever she said, but she just said people should stop dying. It was a very neutral, balanced comment, not favoring Israel, not favoring Palestine. The Israeli government, IDF, took a certain part of that video just to manufacture it in a way that she's supporting Israel and is against Palestine and be like, thank you for your support, Gigi Hadid. And
so
then
far.
other platforms started taking it and be like, okay, Gigi Hadid is pro-terrorism, Gigi Hadid is this, Gigi Hadid wants to kill people, things like that. And now when I was talking to the founder, he's like, Gigi Hadid made a very normal comment, but now that comment is not what think now the comment in the minds of the people is not that comment. The comment is what people are made to believe the comment was, and their mitigation strategy was, we'll just hide the comments on our posts, because people were flocking on the post and be like, oh, if terrorism supports if this brand supports terrorism, I'm not buying from it.
So I have an answer now.
Huh.
I let it die down, then I'll play the ad.
You let it die down, but you lose all of your sales for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, my brother. Like, you lose the biggest month of your annual year. You'll miss your forecasts. You fail your VCs just because Gigi Hadid made a comment.
So in that
Interesting.
scenario, right, you utilize, if I have a personal brand by then, I'd just go to Twitter or LinkedIn and say something like logo ka
And if
kaam
you
hai.
don't have a personal brand,
You got to build a personal brand as a founder these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, on an ethical level, I get it. And the connection to B2B for B2C is also very valid, very dependent on
I
the.
think it's the same. For example, right now that rapper Shub made a comment like in March. People got to know
I'm sure.
about it recently.
Right.
Immediately, boat came in and be like, "We're stopping sponsorship of Shub." Like immediately, like not even like, I think it was in 10 minutes, and it was crazy because in India we're obviously way more radicalized than we were
Yeah.
before, and that's why people will have to take a side. You cannot be gray. In India, you have to be either white or black.
Very interesting. It actually depends on your target audience, I think. That's the answer.
100%, 100%.
That's the answer. But ठीक है. Very, very interesting. Uh, I think we're already overboard. We had this one segment of the podcast. We want to gamify it. Now you know what we are doing, what Rishabh is doing. You're also a few years ahead of us. If there was 1, 2 pieces of advice that we can actually apply
Mm-hmm.
what would it be? And we'd actually show the viewers the impact in a month's time.
Okay. See, I will give you something which you should genuinely do. Like, obviously, Rishabh and you guys are in different businesses, but I'm giving this as a collective challenge, which Rishabh should do it in his business, and Arman and Samyak should do it in their business, which is go like, and because I think the reason I'm issuing this challenge is because we talked a lot about brand in this, like episode. We talked a lot about brand, like what a brand is. Go out and what Rishabh is doing design, obviously, right? And you guys are doing a topper on top of food for pets and things like that. Go out and conduct blind tastings or blind feedback reviews where they don't care about the brand and they are only caring about the product. So in Arman's and Samyak's case, it would be that they like someone's tasting pet food and someone's tasting pet food with a topper, and do at least 100 blind tastings with like different customer audiences. Again, the fact that Hong Kong rich population care about mission, Hong Kong semi-rich population care about sustainability, Hong Kong non-rich population care about price. Do it with every audience of pet owners and like report your results in the sense that do pet owners, because pets are obviously not making the purchase decision, the pet owners are. So did the pet owners feel beneficial when they in a blind tasting scenario? Did the pet like for after 2 weeks actually wanted to eat it again or something like that? Do a blind tasting where they don't know who you are, they don't even know, like not the owner, not the pet knows what they're tasting. Only you should know that bowl A has no pet topper and bowl B has pet topper, and do it in a very grassroots level and see, does your product actually have merit? Because that is the true test of a product, that's the value add of a product at the core level. Like if people will not buy my product for sustainability, they will still buy it for the taste, and that is proved by our blind tastings. So go out and do that test for you guys. And similarly, Rishabh, for you, I think you should do something which is out there, like like create a fake profile, not from your company name, just do a fake profile and do like 10 mock packagings for different products and be like, do you like them? And they don't know. No, don't do it for your clients, because if you do it for your clients, then they will have an opinion which is based on your past work, based on your past experience, or things like that. Like, do it for any random product and don't ask your clients. Don't say that you did it. Don't say Rishabh Jain did it. Don't say people around you did it. It has to be anonymous brand packaging or anonymous something like that, and see what people actually say about it. And again, different target audiences. Please try that you try the metropolitan tier 1, someone in tier 2, and someone in tier 3, and understand like. And the very good example which I would like to give you is Sting. If you see Sting as a product, they're selling in tier 2, tier 3, they're not even a tier 1 product, and that's shown in their packaging because they're so glary and in the eye, where we don't like that in tier 1 because like people say that it's too like like neony or too glazy. But tier 2, tier 3, they're like, wow, chamak raha hai kuch, right? So it's the differentiated offering which I want Rishabh to also try. Like make the same package for, and then test it with 1, 2, 3, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then make 3 different packages for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 and see what's the result.
So I think the whole challenge is around removing any bias that's there and checking merit.
क्योंकि and तभी पता चलेगी कि प्रोडक्ट की औकात क्या है. As
बात सही.
simple as that.
So basically removing the branding out of a brand to
Exactly.
see if you will be able to make